Hello everyone. This is the third college that we are in 3 days, and I must say this is the most energetic crowd. It's funny how everybody falls for this bait. I had very faint recollections of that night when I thought of the idea, which at that time I was calling the faceless IPL player. All I remember is that I thought there was a potential for this to become really big, because I remember asking myself whether some BCCI bigwigs will go after my life if I do something like that. But the next morning when I woke up, I still liked the idea, and I thought that it'll be fun to blog anonymously as an IPL player when the IPL was being played halfway across the world in South Africa. Hence, fakeIPLplayer.blogspot.com was booked, and I started blogging, starting with the inauguration and the first match, and just bringing in the characters slowly and slowly. I was aware of the legal risks, and hence fake IPL player, and not one name or team was actually mentioned in the blog. After 3 or 4 days of blogging anonymously without actually sharing the link with anyone, one morning around 7:30, 8 o'clock India time, which was about 3:34 early morning South Africa time, I wrote one blog post called Opium Nights. It was based on a night out by our famous cricketers in a nightclub called Opium in Durban. The knowledge of which I had due to the fantastic services provided by Google. And as I finished that post, the first night out post of fake IPL player, I realized that I had introduced all the principal characters that I'd wanted. Lord Almighty was there, Bukhanan was there, Kishan Kanhaiya was there, and Prince of Patiala was there, and the famous, pardon my Urdu, the famous Apam Chutia was there. And it so turned out that I realized that, okay, now the baby is ready to be released to the world. I sent out the link to about 15 friends of mine on Facebook, and without telling them that I was the one writing it, I just said that I stumbled upon this. Do you guys know anything about it? And I sent it out, and I continued blogging, and I could see that slowly and slowly the viral was kind of building up. People who I didn't know were writing comments on it, page views were increasing, and guessing game had started. Oh, he's so and so, he's so and so, and people were starting to argue amongst themselves. About 4 days after that, I wake up in the morning, I open the door, pick out the newspaper, and boom, on the front page, blogger hits KKR for a 6. And that's when I knew that the blog had arrived. For the next 4 weeks, it was essentially keeping the game going. The game was essentially a cat and mouse game between me and the media, because I realized that I didn't need to fool the world. All I had to do was fool the media, and they would do the job for me. And it got to an extent that if 3 or 4 days went without anybody reporting on the fake IPL player, I would actually write a post precisely to get it to the paper, and I could almost predict what the headline in Times of India is going to be. At the end of it, it became a big viral sensation, something beyond anybody's imagination, especially mine. And when it finally ended, when IPL got over, and I sat alone in my room thinking about what the hell just happened here. How my life suddenly changed in 5 weeks' time. And it was a bit like, if I was to visualize it, we all see those movies where the one guy is standing in the middle and around him the traffic is moving and everything's buzzing around. It was a bit like that. I was just sitting in the middle of a tempest or a twister, and it was an exhilarating experience. It was a lucky break for sure, because yes, I started it, but then a lot of things had to come together for it to become that big. And most of those things were completely beyond my control. And as I reflected on the lucky break, and over the next few months and years, as I kept reflecting about it, I realized that a lot of things had happened over the previous 10 years that culminated in fake IPL player being born. One of the things that I remember was when I was doing my MBA, and that is where I really started to understand myself. There were three things that I was very good at. One was cricket, because I spent all my time watching and reading about it. Second was I thought I could write funny, because I used to bring out an underground magazine in the institute that talked about who's hooking up with whom, who's dumping whom, who's in love with whom, even if he wasn't, and making sure that everybody goes and drags him after that. And the third was con jobs. I had a pretty good future ahead of me as a con man. For example, one 1st of April, the whole institute, all students, faculty, dean, director, I hope I'm not giving you guys any ideas, we're all meeting for an international media delegation to arrive. It had been built up to it over the previous 2 weeks. There had been phone calls to the PR officer of the institute from a public booth outside the institute. There were emails that had been sent. Decoy reporters had been sent who had come and interviewed. A photographer had come and taken everybody's pictures. And on D-Day, everybody was waiting for this huge media delegation, Business Week, Time, Economist, everyone to arrive. Everyone kept waiting, suited, booted. Food was ready. Eventually food got cold. Everybody went hungry, but the media delegation didn't arrive. I did disclose that it was me, but that was 1 year after I passed out. And everybody was like, we knew it was you. We knew it was you. So it was quite obvious to everybody, including myself, that a great career in match fixing awaited me in the future. But unfortunately, I chose the more steady path of wearing formal trousers, shirt, pants, and going to office every day. 4 years of torture, of the kinds that has been seen in some jails in South America, that I endured. But eventually, one fine day, I pressed the button and I was out of corporate world. It was goodbye software marketing, hello documentary filmmaking. The one event or the one moment that I distinctly remember is when, after about a year of having quit my job, when I made my first documentary, and I was sitting in the editing room looking at the final cut or the final edit of the show, and I just kept replaying it again and again. It was an 18-minute program, and I watched it about 5 times, 10 times, 11 o'clock at night. And I was thinking that, 2 months ago, what I'm watching right now was just in my head. And then I put it on paper. And now I'm watching it in front of me. 2 weeks from now, the rest of the country is going to watch it on TV. It was something that didn't exist earlier, and I had actually created it. And I fell in love with that process of creating. It was the best experience anyone can have. It was better than sex. That's how good it was. I know some of you may be saying that I haven't had good sex, but that's not true. that process was really that good. At that point, I realized that for the rest of my life, I'd like to enjoy the process of creating almost every day, every month, or every year of my life. That's what I wanted to live for. And I realized that it doesn't matter if some of my batchmates are earning 10 times what I am, or some guys are buying houses in like South Bombay, driving fancy cars. I realized this is what it is for me. This is what gives me more satisfaction, and this is what I'm going to chase for the rest of my life. But life is a little more complicated, as you all will realize in a few years from now. You need food to eat, landlord needs rent at the end of every month, and so on and so forth. I had to make a decision. I had to think with my head and not with my heart. I decided to take a break from my creative line and try and make both ends meet, collect some money so that I can get back to what I really enjoy doing. I gave myself 6 months to earn enough money. It ended up being 22 months. But in that time, I started a marketing consulting firm, because I thought it's easiest to fool people with PowerPoint presentations, which is true. But as I was doing that, I got interested in marketing communications because I was enjoying copywriting, I was enjoying designing, and it morphed into a marketing communications firm. And around 2006, 2007, I got very interested in online social media that was just emerging. Orkut had come to India, Facebook had just about started, Second Life was coming in, blogging was becoming big, Twitter was still not born. And at that time, I thought that this could be a very good medium for brands to use for brand building, for marketing. Much ahead of its time, but I thought that it was a fantastic idea. And even though the bread and butter was coming from marketing communications, I started spending more and more time in experimenting with online social media, going to existing clients and trying to do campaigns for them. And it was a process of continuous innovation. One of those innovations, or one of those experiments, turned out to be Fake IPL Player, which took my life to a completely different tangent. It was, how many of you have seen Avatar? All of you. So there's one line that really resonated with me from Avatar, where the main guy says, sometimes your entire life boils down to one moment of insanity, and that was it. But having been running, a conventional company that morphed into, that created the IPL Player, I realized that the only way to be an inventor or innovator or chase that path is to be in a continuous state of beta. Never does your product or company ever become complete, because it's all the time evolving and changing and moving in a direction that you wouldn't have imagined 6 months ago. And that's the continuous state of beta that I thought that my career needs to be if I want to keep myself engaged creatively. Coming back to Fake IPL Player, as the event ended, a host of opportunities stood in front of me, including sitting in Arnab Goswami's television channel and talking about cricket, or the favorite path of all those accidental celebrities, which is Big Boss House, with the door open in front of me. But I thought, okay, again, all these seem like conventionally good. If you ask anybody, he'll say, yeah, you should do this, you should do that, hire a PR agency, and get started and get onto a different plane altogether. But I thought, okay, let's go back to that day or that night in the editing studio, and I think of what you had felt then. I said, okay, the only thing that I want to do now is to write a book. I've always enjoyed writing. I never thought that I was very good at it. Back in business school, it was a bit like Andho Mein Kana Raja. With so many engineers, with maths and physics and those kind of backgrounds, anybody who could write English could actually claim to be a writer. But the blogging experience taught me that there was something in me validated by a lot of people, and I decided to write a book, which was again a brilliant internal, inspiring as well as creatively stimulating experience. I disclosed my identity when I wanted to, not when people expected me to. And after that, I thought that I shouldn't leave all those things that actually led to Fake IPL Player. I should continue on the same path of trying to create something new, trying to innovate all the time. For the last 1.5 years, I've been obsessed with the idea of changing the way people consume sport online. From pure consumers, people want to participate, it needs to be engaging. Hence, I created a platform called Pitch Invasion. All of you have smartphones or laptops, go on to pitchinvasion.in and check it out. An interactive radio station where we do live cricket commentary. Imagine if the three of you are sitting in the common room and watching cricket together, the way you will talk. Three guys like me and two friends will sit on one side and we'll talk exactly like that, no holds barred. And listeners can actually interact with us online through a chat app. Listeners' reactions are taken into the commentary, and everybody, like our listeners have said, from Vancouver to Shanghai to Singapore, all over the world, they say that they feel they're watching cricket with a bunch of friends. They feel they're back in college. Pitch Invasion has been in existence for 1.5 years. We went cash flow positive today when one of our clients' payments came through. But even before this IPL, my partner and I, we sat and thought about what do we want to do? Do we want to continue Pitch Invasion on the same path, or do we want to change it? We realized continuous state of beta, it's one thing to be a content provider. With content provider, everything starts and stops with us. We can have a good day, we can have a bad day, we can be tired, we want to take a vacation, all sorts of things. We realized that we want to be a platform and we want to be on mobile handsets. Because when I look at all you guys, all of you below 25 years of age, hardly anybody uses a laptop anymore. I see everybody's on Blackberries and smartphones and doing everything on their phones. So I realized that we want to be a platform and we want to be on the mobile phones, and hence Pitch Invasion 2.0 has just been created in our heads, is being put down on paper right now. A mobile platform where each one of you can create your own sports content and make it available on the mobile phone, and each one of you as user can configure your own way of how you want to consume sport, from established sources to individual bloggers to interacting with people to a live page dashboard. I'm calling it Sportify right now, and the way I see it in my head, it could completely change the way people all over the world consume sports content. At the end of the day, it's a great life. I have roof over my head, I have food on the table, and every day morning I wake up and I say, I'm going to go and work on this today. And every day I feel like a winner. And I wish all of you have the same life. Thank you.